and practitioner of my firm, Badu Tax Services, and we specialize in tax preparation, tax planning, and tax representation for individuals and businesses. So today, really, the topic of discussion is on scholarships. So how to apply for scholarships, how to win scholarships, and essentially just really, how to maximize your scholarship game while you're in college. And so before we do that, though, I would like to kick it off with a market report. And so this report is as of September 1st, 2017. So essentially, equities were back in a black last week. It was a few weeks where we were slumping a little bit, but now we're back on a rise a little bit. And essentially, each of the indexes posted end of the week gains, and Nasdaq soared to its largest weekly gain of the year. The large caps of the Dow and the S&P 500 enjoyed noticeable gains despite Friday's mundane jobs report. So even the Russell 2000, which has been struggling so far this year, climbed over 2.5% for the week and is now 4.16% ahead of its 2016 closing value. And then the price of crude oil went down from $47.87 a barrel to $47.35. The price of gold went up from $12.9650 to $13.2990. So far the market has been doing pretty good. Ultimately, we've had a fairly good year this year, and essentially the market has been doing fairly well. So Dow Jones is up about 11% so far this year. Nasdaq is up 19.55%. S&P 500 up over 10%. Russell 2000 over 4%. Global Dow 12.83%. So overall, the markets have been doing fairly well so far this year. But now into the main part of the segment, which is on scholarships. And so scholarships are a huge revenue source for college students, if they do or they don't know. Essentially, scholarships are a way for you to utilize tax-free money to pay off your education, or you can use it for certain things like books, maybe perhaps some room and board, just different things that require you to go to college. And a secret about me is I actually invested some of my scholarship money into the stock market. I was fortunate enough to go to school on a full ride scholarship, and so I personally didn't have to really take out any student loans. I actually did, but I ended up paying them off with the scholarships that I received. So my first year in college, I took out some student loans, but then my second, third, fourth, and also my grad year, I actually ended up paying off the student loans with the scholarships that I received subsequently. And so scholarships can be a huge revenue source. I highly recommend everyone take advantage of them. But ultimately, you can't win a scholarship unless you apply for one. And so as with anything in life, if you don't try, you can't succeed. So you've automatically failed. And so really, there are 4 phases to successfully winning a scholarship, which are finding the scholarship, applying for the scholarship, what's known as the waiting period, and then ultimately winning the scholarship. And so with finding the scholarship, what I would recommend is you do a traditional Google search. Just search for different scholarships that are in your major, maybe perhaps at your class level. Some scholarships deal with race, some scholarships, just anything that identifies with you. There are some scholarships that are out there just for left-handed people, for example, which I actually applied for because I'm left-handed. So just a quick Google search. Everything in life basically can be found on Google nowadays. So just a really simple Google search is going to help you get that scholarship that you deserve. Another way is to ask your financial aid office or visit the school's or college's website to find scholarships that you may qualify for. And so perhaps they have maybe a resource center, or maybe a bulletin that comes out every week. So you always want to keep up with those and always check to see what new scholarships are out there. And then ask the people you know. So people such as your advisor, your graduate counselor, your mentor, your members of different organizations, just people you can seek out that you know they can help you. I mean, they probably went to the same school, so they know the scholarships that are out there for people that went to that school, or people that fit with you overall. You know, fit with your such as your major, your class level, things like that. So they might know, and guess what? These are great sources for recommendations. So oftentimes you need what's known as letters of recommendations in order to win these scholarships. And so for the most part, you know, these are not only can they help you find the scholarship, but they can also help you win the scholarship by giving you things such as letters of recommendations. And so once you found a scholarship, you know, you create a good list, which I'll get into more a little later. But essentially now you actually have to apply. And remember, you can't win a scholarship unless you actually apply for the scholarship. And so my advice is to actually, you know, create a list, actually apply for the scholarship. So applying is the most important step. And my rule of thumb is to apply for as many scholarships as possible. So if you have 1,000 scholarships and you qualify for all 1,000 of those, apply for all 1,000 of them. There's no reason why you shouldn't be applying for any. It might take some time, it might take some effort, but hey, this is money that they're going to put in your pocket. Every single year there's thousands and thousands of scholarships that go basically wasted because nobody applied for them, or there wasn't enough people that applied, so the people that did apply, they got all the money. And so that's one of the biggest challenges with scholarships. You know, people might complain about, oh, this scholarship was taken away, or oh, I can't find a scholarship in this area. Well, because maybe people weren't applying for them, and so they had to get rid of it. They were tired of wasting resources. You know, they have valuable, precious resources that they can offer, but nobody was applying for them. And so my rule of thumb is to always apply for as many scholarships as you can humanly possibly can. I remember back in high school, my senior year in high school, I probably applied for 300 scholarships. My freshman year in college, I probably did about 100. And then it went down to like 50 and then 20. Just overall, you'll know the scholarships that you win, and I'll talk about that a little more later. But the more you apply, the higher chances you have of winning. You know, scholarships don't have the highest winning rate, but I'll tell you that if you apply for 1,000 scholarships versus 100, you have a much higher chance of winning scholarships if you apply for that 1,000. And ultimately, you have nothing to lose other than maybe a transcript fee, which sometimes you can even do an unofficial transcript where you can print from your website, on your school's website, free of charge. You know, maybe a few envelopes. I mean, nowadays, a lot of these applications are online, so you don't have to lick any envelopes. You don't have to mail anything. Even if you do, I mean, it costs probably, 40 cents or $1 to mail it out. Envelope maybe costs you 50 cents. I mean, you probably have no more than $2 to lose. So that's my advice, is to always apply for as many as possible because you have nothing to lose, really. And then once you found all the scholarships that you potentially qualify for, compile a list along with the associated deadlines, when you plan to apply for them. Just a few little things. You just want to list the deadlines and then your target apply for a date. And then you also want to note if you've applied for them, basically like a status update. Have you applied? What's the status of it? Did you win? Did you lose? Just things along those lines. And then apply even if you're not fully eligible for that scholarship. So maybe you're missing the GPA requirement by 0.1 or something like that. You probably have a good chance of winning that scholarship if nobody else has applied for it. And so that's why I'm saying that you should apply even if you aren't fully eligible, because you could still win that scholarship because not enough people have applied for it. And ultimately, So be sure to complete your application in full. That's one of the biggest pet peeves of scholarship reviewers and things like that. They don't want to see anything that's missing from the application. So make sure your application is full. Do a quick scan of everything. Make sure you have a checklist of things that you need to send in, and then submit all required materials together to the correct address. You won't believe how many people apply for a scholarship and all they're missing is the right address. You know, something as silly as that can knock them out the round, where they sent it to 124 Main Street instead of 120 Main Street or something like that. So always double check, always do your due diligence, always follow up and make sure that you're sending these things to the right people. And then get letters of recommendations that are personable and are specific to that scholarship. Try to make it as specific as possible to that scholarship. You don't want that generic letter that gets sent to 50 scholarships, because at a certain point they can tell which one is generic. You know, for example, you want to make sure that the scholarship, the name of the scholarship is in there. Maybe while you're applying for it, maybe there's a question that's on the interview list or a question list that you might want to include the answer to, or your recommender to include the answer to. So just some quick things. Just make sure that it's as personable as possible, and it's not some generic letter that you pulled from a Google template or something. And then also try to have your recommender mail out the recommendation directly. So don't have them send it to you, then you send it to them. Try to have them send it directly so that it looks more legitimate. It's from a third party now. It doesn't look like you wrote it. It came from the address of the actual recommender. So those are some quick, just some really quick tips. Make sure your essay is concise. I know people love to talk about themselves, but essentially what you want to do is make sure it's concise. It answers the questions, but it's concise and it's straight to the point. And just be sure to actually answer the questions. Don't put any sort of fluff or anything in there. Just be sure that you actually are answering the questions to the point. And remember, it's the simplest things in life that make the biggest difference. Because remember, like the whole address thing. What if you put 124 Main Street instead of 120? That's a very tiny mistake that probably required 30 seconds of your life to change it. But now it just costs you thousands and thousands of dollars because they never received the application. So it's the simplest things in life, the tiniest things in life that count the most. And then, so once you've found a scholarship, you've actually applied for it, and now it's time to wait, or the waiting period. Although this might seem like a very boring or unactive or inactive stage, so this is actually a very active stage. So imagine, like the previous example, where you actually applied for the scholarship. You're the most qualified candidate in the world. Your essay is so beautiful. You've had 1 million people review the essay, and you're gonna win the scholarship no matter what. Well, what if you send it to the wrong address and you never followed up? A few weeks later, you go and check the winners, and you're not on the list for whatever reason. So now you're angry. You're fed up. You're calling a lot of people. You're insulting people. You're doing all this, and guess what? All you had to do, so you look back in your records, maybe you made a copy of the application, and you realize you sent it to the wrong address. The simplest mistake in the world. And now you're kicking yourself because you simply didn't double check the address. You sent it to the wrong address, and now you've automatically lost that scholarship. And so just these tiny little things, and this is where the follow-up is important. So you should always follow up on these scholarship applications. So you sent in an application, and assuming it's not after the deadline, but let's say a week later, you after applying for the scholarship, if you don't receive any confirmations after a week or maybe even 2 weeks, be sure to send an email to the organizer. There's always a contact person listed on the scholarship. Send an email to them saying, hey, I applied for this scholarship. I sent an application on this date. Have you received it? If you don't receive a response, send in an email again. So I would say 3 days later, send another email. And then 3 days later, make a phone call. Or what you can also do, you can actually start with the phone call. So that's not a bad idea. If they've listed their contact information on there, if they've listed their phone number, go ahead and give them a call. If they don't respond, leave them a voicemail. A few days later, still no response. Don't call them again. Instead, send them an email. If they don't respond to the email, send them another email. If they don't respond to that, then you might want to do one last follow-up call, and then you just leave it at that. You never want to bombard. Maybe they're too busy processing the application. You don't want to bombard them with requests. So I would limit it to actually 3 follow-ups. So you want to do the follow-up, but you don't also want to overdo it, just like with anything in life. And then, so I would say, to my previous point, the best way is to actually call the organization. Pick up the phone, you call them, and ask them, have you received my scholarship? And if you have you received everything? And so the best way is to call them. If they don't pick up the phone, you send them an email. If they don't respond to that email within a few days, you send them another email saying, hey, I'm following up again. What's the status? And then you do this with all of the scholarships, essentially. If you don't receive a response after 3 tries, then you sort of just have to leave it up in the air and hope that they actually received it. So I don't recommend more than 3 follow-ups, actually. And so you've found the scholarship, you've applied for it, you've called these people, made sure that everything is all sound, secure, they've received it, and they let you know that they'll respond to you or they'll give you a decision within the next 2 weeks. That's awesome. That's a great point to be at. And now, phase 4, or the final phase, is when you actually win the scholarship. So of course, this is the best phase there is, because now you've actually won the scholarship, and you're now celebrating, you've won the money. And so, although this might seem like the last phase, or this might seem like the end of the whole process, this is actually not really where it ends. So once you win a scholarship, it's always a good idea to send a thank you note to the organization saying, hey, I applied for this scholarship. I sincerely appreciate you selecting me as a winner. It means a lot to me. You can throw in a quick blurb that maybe you're a first-generation college student or something like that, just so they can feel a little, feels personable or feels a little emotional, for example. And so that way, they're going to keep you in mind for next year, because you're not one and done. Assuming this isn't a 4-year scholarship, this is a recurring every year type scholarship. You send them the thank you note, and you always want to follow up, and then always include to let them know when the next application period is open. Because with a lot of scholarships, once you win, you become what's known as grandfathered into the scholarship. So they know everything about you. You still have to apply though. So they've received the application. They know you've always had consistently good grades. You did great last year. You're doing great so far this year. They're probably going to give you the scholarship because they're investing in you now. Although they don't receive any financial benefits other than maybe a tax write-off. Maybe they have some donors, some private donors that receive tax benefits. They receive it that way. Their foundation looks good. They're giving out money to the right people. So these are just little things as far as the benefits for them. So you could potentially become grandfathered into the scholarship. And so what this means is you're just going to keep winning again and again and again. I mean, for me, I would say I've probably won about, give or take, about 29 scholarships throughout my life. And most of these scholarships were through the same organizations. For example, the National Association of Black Accountants. I won 3 levels of scholarships each year until my grad year. Just these different things. They're always, as long as you keep applying, as long as you're doing good in school, as long as you're meeting the requirements, they're probably going to give you that scholarship. And that's what happened with me with one of my organizations. Every year I applied, got my letters of recommendations in there, and I won consistently each and every year. I mean, some of these scholarships I won 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row. There's little things. Some you're probably only going to win once. Some limit you how many times you can win. Most scholarships limit you to a 2-win limit. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that you might be limited to how many scholarships you can win. And then also some other things is that, always do the follow-up, because you never know what's going to happen. If you're not sending these thank you letters, they might not view you as appreciative or anything like that. So always do the follow-up, send the thank you notes, and always consistently apply each and every year, because remember, you have nothing to lose. Especially in the second year, for you not to apply for that scholarship again would be putting yourself in a very bad situation. Because the first year, you probably have a 10% chance of winning. The second year, you probably have a 90% chance of winning. So I would say consistently try to apply for the scholarships that actually you've actually won in the past. And always stay on top of it. Remember, always continuously update your list. Continuously just keep updating that scholarship list. Keep adding to it. Keep adding more scholarships to it. Take away the ones that you're not eligible for anymore, and just keep pushing through with the scholarships. Because honestly, remember, you have nothing to lose, but maybe an envelope and a transcript fee. And so, really, college, I would say scholarships are one of my biggest. So I wrote an article called "The 20 Steps to Succeed in College," and financial management, or proper financial management, is very essential. And one of the essential components of financial management within itself is scholarships. So we know student loans out there right now over $1 trillion. We know it's a huge burden for college students. And so essentially, we want to make sure that we apply for as many scholarships as possible. Because I believe that the reason why the student loan burden is so large out there right now is because people aren't applying for these scholarships. Remember, you have nothing to lose. I remember, I'll share a little bit. For me, I've always sent out scholarships to people. Ever since my freshman year in college, I've always had a list of people that I always sent out scholarships to. So what I would do is I would compile a list of the scholarships that I applied to, and I would just send it out to people. And although this might expose some competition, I was already grandfathered into some of these scholarships. So regardless if somebody else was to apply, I would win mine regardless, but they would have a good chance of winning it as well, especially if they threw me in as maybe like a reference, or like who referred you to the scholarship or something like that. And so for me, I've always sent out scholarships. I think back in college, I built a list of about 300 people that I would consistently send out scholarships, especially around winter break. Now they're actually posted on my website. So www.jeffbadu.com. There's actually a list of scholarships, and I've actually been approached by a lot of scholarship search engines to promote on my website, and so I put their information on there as well, and they're pretty good. Now they have a lot of these things where you put in your age, your major, your race, just your level and things like that, and they'll shoot you out a list of scholarships that might be in your best interest to apply for. And so some of these resources weren't available at my fingertips when I was in college. I mean, you had sites like FastWeb, a bunch of these different sites were out there, but ultimately, for me now, it's very rewarding to be able to help people in that way. And that it's a public website. Anybody in the world has access to it. And essentially what you can do is you can actually apply. You can go on a website. You can subscribe to it. Anytime there's a new scholarship, I will send you an email saying, hey, this scholarship has come out. And this is the same website where I have my articles And some of these Facebook, so my shows, these radio segments, I actually record them on Facebook Live, and I just post them directly to my website. And so if you ever wanted some more information or anything like that, you can go directly on my website. It's www.jeffbadu.com. Very simple website. You can subscribe to it. You can check out all the information that's on it, and it's some pretty useful information. And remember, scholarships are tax-free, so you're not even paying taxes on this money. There's nothing like tax-free money. A wise man once told me. This is money that you get to keep in your pocket all day, every day. And like I said, for me, I used most of it to pay off my education and any remaining student loans that I had. But at the same time, I also invested it. So I actually had about $2,700 my junior year left over in scholarship money. Or perhaps it was money that I worked for that I didn't put towards my education. And so I invested it into General Electric stock. And 2 years later, it actually doubled while I was collecting dividends. So that's the ultimate cash flow or cash producing product, in that it was just generating me money each and every day or each and every quarter. And so really that's my advice for everyone, is to apply for as many scholarships as possible. It's definitely you have nothing to lose. Especially as a college student, you should definitely be out there applying for as many scholarships as possible. Take a few minutes each week, maybe 30 minutes, sit down in the library, go through a list, and start applying for them. Some of these apps are pretty self-explanatory. They don't take much time. I mean, some of these scholarships, the applications probably took me 10 minutes. Some took me an hour. I probably haven't had a scholarship that took me more than an hour, to be honest. So that's really my advice. Try to apply for as many scholarships as you can, and you eventually will become a winner of the scholarships. And then, of course, keep your grades up. Always get active, get involved in these organizations, become a leader within your organizations. Try to join a professional organization, and try to build your network, because they will supply you with some of these scholarships. So thank you all for tuning in to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. My name is Jeff Badu, and I definitely look forward to continuously delivering these materials and providing you the financial literacy knowledge and things that you need in order to become financially secure or financially free. And so these upcoming weeks, I'll be talking about some more topics. If you have any topic that you want me to talk about, and hopefully I haven't already talked about it yet, please send it to me directly to you can send it on my website, www.jeffbadu.com. You can call me at 773-679-7198. You can text me as well. You can email me, jeffbadu@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, add me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat. I'm on every single social media platform there is. The only one I'm not on is Pinterest. But I mean, that's really it as far as the segment. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, contact me, call me. And once again, my name is Jeff Badu, and I look forward to continuously delivering you all some financial knowledge.
That was Jeff Badu with the financial literacy awareness education / go get the money. Jeff, what's up, man? The way I was born, so you didn't really go for student loan, really?
No,
I mean, you
actually,
went for it, but
it was paid off by the scholarships.
Okay,
Exactly.
that's a good thing. Okay, so now here we are. So when you have more than more than what you need.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying that you can invest those into stocks and those kind of things, and that's a risk taking though, because when you invest into stocks, you don't really know what's going to happen.
That's true.
So
But that's with anything in life. Just like you started this radio station, you didn't know what was going to happen.
That's true.
So you got to take risks to make it far.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
I dig that. That's very true. Are you following the DACA thing that's going on, Dreamers? You're not really a politician.
Yeah, I don't like politics at all. I stay away from it as much as possible.
Thank you for another segment, man. Now let me talk about Fias Schwarzenegger a little bit. We'll take it from there. Thank you, Jeff. See you next week, man.
Yes, sir.
Ayo, Fias Schwarzenegger.
What's up, money boy?
Yes, man.
Ababa, wait, in 10 before me.